What do you do when your brother steals your mother's house out from under you, leaving you with nothing but a box of her ashes and a question? How far does family loyalty stretch before it snaps? I'm Dolores Martinez, Dolly to anyone who's stuck around. And at 71, I've weathered enough storms in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to know when one's brewing. A year ago, the sky fell. Mama slipped away, her heart worn thin by diabetes, leaving our family home, a weathered adobe rancher on the edge of town, its cracked walls holding decades of laughter and tears. It was humble, but it was mine, or so I'd thought. I'd spent my last years with her there, wiping her brow, feeding her broth, listening to her raspy promises. Dolly, this house is yours, you've earned it. I'd held those words tight, a lifeline through the grief. Then Victor, my brother, 5 years my senior, strutted in after the funeral, his smile sharp as a switchblade. He'd been a ghost while Mama faded, too busy with cards and dice to hold her hand, leaving me to carry her through the end. At the lawyer's office, he dropped his bomb. Mama had changed her will a month before she died, leaving everything, the house, the savings, the whole dusty lot, to him. I sat there, gripping her urn, its cool metal biting my palms, while he flashed a pristine document, notarized and smug. She wanted me taken care of, Dolly, he said, voice slick as oil. You'll manage. Manage? I'd poured my savings into her meds, her care, my nights sleepless by her bed, while he'd gambled away his soul. The family turned their heads. Rosa, my sister-in-law, murmured, "Let it be, Dolly, he's blood." And my cousins nodded, avoiding my gaze like I'd kicked a hornet's nest for no reason. But that will wasn't Mama. She'd called Victor a leech, laughed at his schemes. Why would she hand him her heart's brick and mortar? It reeked, and not just of his dollar store cologne. I drove back to my rented trailer that day, the urn rattling beside me in the Buick, the desert sun glaring through the windshield. You don't get to rewrite her, Vic, I growled, my voice bouncing off the dashboard. I'd been too soft, too trusting, but not anymore. That night, I dug out a notepad, my hands trembling as I scribbled names, Mama's friends, her old lawyer, anyone who'd seen her last days. I wasn't some fancy gumshoe, just a stubborn old bird with a hunch and a fire in my gut. Victor thought he'd pulled the wool over us all, but I'd watched him dodge consequences since we were kids, charming his way out of debts, out of promises. This time, he'd crossed Mama, crossed me, and I'd unravel his lie, even if it meant dragging family skeletons into the light. The urn sat there, a quiet witness, and I swore to her ashes I'd fight. For her, for justice, for the home she'd meant for me. Victor's betrayal wasn't a lightning strike. It was a slow bleed I'd been too blind to staunch. Back in that Albuquerque adobe, he'd been the golden sun, tall, smooth-talking, flashing smiles that softened Mama's reprimands, while I was the quiet one, stirring her pots, soaking up her tales. He'd filch her money for can't-miss bets, poker tables, slot machines, a car lot that crashed and burned, leaving her to sigh and me to sweep up the mess. When diabetes shackled her to that bed, I moved in, cooked her meals, held her trembling hands through the nights, while Victor mailed flimsy excuses from Vegas, his visits as scarce as desert rain. "Dolly, you're my strength," she'd whisper, her voice thin as thread. "This house is yours, it's only right." I'd clung to that promise, trusted it, until he slithered back with his forged prize. Now, in my trailer, I tore into the wreckage of our past, Mama's urn perched on the table like a stern overseer. I dragged out a shoebox, bills, letters, faded scraps I'd salvaged after the funeral, my fingers clumsy, nearly toppling the urn. "New Mexico's lousiest sleuth," I muttered, catching it with a dry chuckle that echoed in the stillness. I sifted through, finding a letter from her lawyer, Grayson, 2 years old, confirming the house was mine. Clean, signed, legal as daylight. My pulse jumped. Victor's new will was a month fresh, slick and suspicious. I dialed Grayson's old number, got a retired, moved to Phoenix, and cursed the dead end. Then I called Mrs. Ortiz, Mama's bingo pal who'd sat with her those last days. She never spoke of changing it, she said, firm as stone. Victor was at the slots, not her bedside. I'd stake my house on it. I dug deeper, pulling bank records from Mama's mail. A dribble of withdrawals, then a fat one, days before she passed, Victor's scrawl slashing across it like a thief's mark. He drained her while I'd been changing her linens, too buried in care to notice. I snatched my coat, drove to his new place, a gaudy rental across town, all glass and chrome, a peacock strut against our chipped adobe roots. He opened the door, silk shirt half open, smirking like he'd won the world. Dolly, what's this? Missing your big brother? I thrust the statement at him, voice hard as gravel. What did you do, Vic? Fake her will while she was dying? This money, where's it gone? He leaned on the frame, chuckling low and cold. You're seeing shadows, she wanted me set, Dolly. Look around. Does this look like a man in trouble? His eyes flicked to a gleaming car in the drive, too sleek for a gambler who'd been broke last I checked. Where'd that come from? I pressed, stepping closer, my shadow cutting into his shine. Paid my dues, he said, smug, unlike some. Go home, enjoy your little tin can. I've got this handled. He shut the door, leaving me fuming on the stoop, his laugh lingering like smoke. Back home, I dialed a PI from the yellow pages. Rico, a gruff voice promising dirt for a price. Find me proof on Victor Martinez, I said, gripping the receiver. He's got Mama's house, and I'll bet my last nickel it's a con. The urn caught the light, and I felt her steady gaze, her trust. Victor thought he'd buried me in her dust, but I'd dig till the truth broke free, family ties be damned. The Albuquerque sun beat down mercilessly as I waited for Rico's call, my trailer a sweatbox of nerves and dust. I'd handed him everything, bank statements, Mama's letters, Victor's smug will, and spent sleepless nights imagining that adobe house slipping through my fingers. When the phone finally rang, Rico's gravelly voice cut through the hum of my old fan. Got the goods, Dolly. Diner on Central, now bring cash. I snatched my purse, $50 clinking inside, and roared off in the Buick, its engine wheezing like it knew the stakes. The diner was a haze of fry grease and stale coffee. Rico slouched in a booth with a folder thick enough to choke a horse. He slid it over, pocketing my money with a grunt. Your brother's a snake, he said, tapping the stack. Will's a fake, notary's a ghost, some punk he paid off. Sold the house 2 months back to a developer, cash deal to dodge casino sharks, big debts, Dolly, 6 figures. My hands shook, flipping pages. Sold it, I croaked, voice cracking. Who'd buy without checking? Rico smirked, shady outfit. Victor's got pals in low places, greased the deal with a cut-rate lawyer. Then it burned, arson sloppy, probably him covering tracks. I didn't wait for his good luck, bolting to the old lot. The adobe was a ruin, blackened beams stabbing the sky, ash swirling like a ghost dance. Victor paced by his shiny pickup, barking at a hard-hat guy, his silk shirt stained with sweat. I stormed up, fury boiling. You torched it, didn't you? Faked her will, sold what wasn't yours, then burned it to hide your filth. He whirled, eyes flashing, that smirk twisting into a snarl. You're off your rocker, Dolly. House caught fire, accidents happen. I got paid, it's over. Over. I spat, stepping into his space, ash crunching underfoot. You stole from Mama from me. That will's a lie, I've got proof. He shoved the folder back at me, laughing bitter and loud. Proof? You've got squat. Some papers won't undo cash in my pocket. Run back to your trailer, little sister, I won. His voice dripped venom, daring me to swing, but I held steady, Rico's words burning in my skull. You're wrong, Vic, I said low and cold, and you'll see. He climbed into his truck, peeling out, leaving me in the soot. Back home, Rico rang again, breathless. Dug deeper. Your mom was a fox. Second will legit, locked with a friend. Signed a year before she died, all yours in trust. Victor's deal was smoke, he sold a mirage. I sank onto the couch, Mama's urn catching the light, a laugh breaking through my chest. Thought I was just chasing ashes, I said, grinning at the phone, and Rico chuckled. You're the landlord now, kid. Victor thought he'd outrun us, but Mama's trap snapped shut. His lies, his fire, all crumbling under her quiet justice. I'd faced the wreckage, but I'd won. Victor's empire of lies collapsed slow and loud, like a sandstorm tearing through Albuquerque. I handed Rico's folder to Carla, a lawyer with a shark's grin and a soft spot for underdogs. She cracked the trust wide open. Mama's real will, signed a year before her last breath, locked the house in my name, untouchable by Victor's grubby paws. He'd sold a fiction to that developer, pocketing cash he didn't own, and the fire, his drunken torch job with a gas can, left him with a lawsuit instead of a win. The developer sued for fraud, the casino sharks circled, and one crisp morning, I watched from my trailer as a tow truck hauled his pickup away, Victor shouting at the driver, his silk swapped for a ragged jacket. He banged on my door a week later, hollow-eyed, stinking of desperation. Dolly, I'm done, creditors, cops, they're taking everything. You gotta help me. I stood firm, Mama's urn on the shelf behind me, a silent sentinel. Help you, I said, voice steady. You forged her will, burned her house, left me with nothing. Why should I? He crumpled, pleading. I messed up, thought I'd pay it off, get clean. Please, sis. I crossed my arms. You chose your cards, Vic, deal with the hand. He staggered off, a broken man, and I shut the door, the quiet settling like dust after a gale. Carla called that afternoon, her voice bright. Insurance paid out. House was yours, fire's on him. You're clear to rebuild or cash it. I took the money, enough to buy a snug adobe downtown, a fresh slate. Rosa rang later, soft and sad. He's lost it all, Dolly, happy now? I sighed. Not happy, just free. Mama fixed it, not me. And she had, one night years back, she'd gripped my hand, whispering, Victor'll take what he can, but I've got you covered, trust me. I'd nodded, half asleep, not grasping her plan till now. Her secret will, her shield. I moved in that spring, baking Mama's bread in a new oven, the honeyed scent curling through the air. The urn sat by the window, catching the sun, and I sliced a loaf, talking to her. You saw him coming, Ma gave me this. The wind carried her ashes echo, and I felt her, steady, sly, victorious. Victor didn't need my vengeance. His greed had gutted him. Creditors stripping his last dime, the law sniffing his trail. I forgave him, not for his sake, but mine, to breathe without that weight. The bread steamed on the table. A piece of her I'd kept, and I smiled, tasting justice in every bite. Family's a rough road. Victor paved his with lies, but Mama's love rerouted me, leaving him stranded. Ever see a betrayer fall into the pit they dug, without you lifting a hand? That's what she taught me. Time and truth don't shout, they just win.